Wrist pain. Wrist pain seems to be a common problem amongst modern man because we spend all day working in an office with our hands like this, and then at least athletic men go out on the weekend and play tennis, ping pong, golf, and this leads to a lot of tennis elbow or golfer's elbow. So today I'm going to show you guys a routine that you can use to reverse out that wrist pain, increase wrist ability to play sports, as well as just avoid pain overall. One thing that you can do to start working on that wrist pain is just doing things that you can do without pain. You might not be able to start with wrist curls or even banded wrist curls, so you can start with just the air. So air wrist prep that you can do, closing the fingers as hard as possible. You're going to do 1 to 2 sets of these air wrist prep to warm up for about 20 to 25 reps. So just closing the hands and then opening as hard as possible. Opening the hands as hard as possible. All about intent here. Getting some blood flow into supporting muscles of the wrist and the forearm. 20 there. Then getting into wrist flexion and extension. You can work on both here at the side. So you want to do about 20 each way. So again, just getting lots of blood flow into this area. Wrist flexion extension, then ulnar flexion extension and radial flexion extension. You can actually work both ways here. Real intentional. Getting 20 reps both ways. And this is bringing blood flow and nutrients into this so you can then get the rest of the routine without pain. So working here. Also working on elbow pronation, supination, about 20 each way. Keeping the elbows tucked so that you're mostly working the muscles here at the elbow. And then get into these wrist circles, resisting with each hand, giving yourself as much resistance as you can handle here. Back and forth. We're going from the ground up, so from the fingers, hands, and wrists into the forearms. We can then start doing some banded tricep extensions here, getting about 30 reps, again for 1 to 2 sets. Working on getting blood flow into the elbow, and then elbow flexion as well. Getting some bicep curls, nice little pump, blood flow into this side of the elbow. Then you can work the plate pinch position of the grip, grabbing the thumb side and then fingers here. Just holding that for about 30 seconds to get strengthening into the wrist, strengthening the grip. And you can see this works muscles even up to the elbow. So very important. We'll do 30 seconds each side. Also working the finger extensor muscles. So we don't have a band here, or I don't have a rubber band here, or a finger extensor band, but just working that opposite motion of the grip to also get strong in reverse of gripping. A lot of times that is part of the wrist pain, right? Just being able to close your hand or shake somebody's hand. So getting those finger extensors working and kind of playing around with the positions here will help a lot. So those little bands are very underestimated, but they're very useful. Then if you have something like a wrist bar or simply a cast iron or pan, you can use that to work your pronation and supination, as well as ulnar flexion extension and then radial flexion extension. And you can get measurably stronger there by adding weight to this. The leverage adds difficulty. So if I'm holding it closer, it's easier, whereas if I'm holding it harder, it's much harder. Holding it further is much harder. Can't even do any ulnar here. And then working also side to side on that pronation and supination so that all sides of the elbow are strong. And you can start with something much lighter than this, or even the bar itself. It's actually pretty difficult if you hold it at the very end. And you'll be able to find the same thing applies to a cast iron. So working these 4 wrist motions, pronation, supination, ulnar flexion extension, radial flexion extension, and then working wrist flexion, so with dumbbell curls, and then wrist extension going the opposite way. And you can actually do this with two hands. Say I had another dumbbell here to save time. Same way the other way. And measurably, you want to be stronger, twice as strong going this way as you are this way. So you might need two pairs of dumbbells or adjustable dumbbells going that way. So a stronger wrist can tolerate much more weight on it, equals more ability to handle stress. Now going into strengthening the elbow, long range curls, Scott curls, or things where your elbows are out like this are going to be much more tension on the elbow. So we want to do things like spider curls instead. I'm going to overlay these while I do them on the bench. Spider curls are great because they're much harder in the shortened position and easier in that lengthened position. So they won't cause as much damage or tension to the elbow. And they're more focused on the muscles, which helps to get blood flow in there. It helps to rebuild that mind to muscle connection, as well as improve the connection, the strength, as well as improving the strength here is going to help more support of the muscle so that the tendon doesn't have to take so much of the tension. And then things like Tate's press, which I will also overlay, which allow you to work the elbow in this position that's less stressful on the actual elbow joint and more difficult on the muscle, right? You can also do things like tricep kickbacks if Tate's press is a little bit too much, really isolating, keeping the elbow up at 90 degrees and extending right here, using as light of a weight as you need to. Again, just rebuilding that mind to muscle connection. So I hope this was helpful to you to help you improve your elbow ability, wrist ability, just have healthier and more able hands in a modern world that has reduced the amount that we use our hands to just typing on a keyboard. This is going to help you prepare for sports so you have less pain when you're playing tennis, golf, any racket or throw-in sport. Make sure to subscribe for more tips on leading a pain-free athletic life.